Are we witnessing the end of Scream? How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champane, and this is my channel where I talk about horror movies. Today, we're talking about Scream 7 and maybe the end of the Scream franchise. I also have a video in the works with some other small horror news. We're going to talk Friday the 13th and Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving was incredible. I absolutely loved it. We just got a sequel announced, and I'm just so excited about that. But today, we got to talk about a little bit of doom and gloom news because I want to go through everything that happened from beginning to now with Scream 7 and kind of try to explain what's going on here and what we might be able to expect in the future. All right, so all this started on November 21st of this year, 2023. I was literally sitting in my living room waiting for my friend to pick me up so we could go watch Thanksgiving, and it was one of those tweets that comes up on your feed and you're like, wait, what? That can't be real, but it totally was. Melissa Barrera was fired from Scream because of some things that she said on Instagram, in her Instagram story, surrounding the Israel-Palestine situation, and basically it was taken by Spyglass to be anti-Semitic. Now, of course, there's tons of rumors about this, and because Scream is like a franchise that has been adopted in a way by Gen Z, a lot of this stuff comes from Twitter, and, you know, media literacy is definitely at an all-time low, so people will see a tweet from a random account that just because it has a check mark, they say, oh, this must be fact, then it gets spread by wildfire. I tried my best to only use official sources like Bloody Disgusting, Variety, The Hollywood Reporter for this. There was a rumor going around that said Melissa Barrera might have been fired a long time ago, but there were specific tweets or Instagram stories, mentioned as to why she got fired. And I just gotta be honest, I don't talk about politics on this channel, and I'm not really going to here. I just think it's incredibly stupid when people get fired for Instagram stories or tweets or anything like that. I really genuinely don't like how there's this new, I guess, economy built around tearing people's lives down because of tweets they did 10 years ago. In this case, it was a tweet from a couple of weeks ago, or an Instagram story. I keep saying tweet, but you know what I mean. And at the end of the day, no matter what, I just always think it's dumb. People shouldn't lose their jobs based on things they say unless they're saying actually crazy stuff that they're going to act on, and you can verify that they're going to act on it, right? Like, most people, I think, have bad days. Most people say dumb things they don't mean in real life and, of course, online. You have to be so careful these days, and it just really sucks, right? So yeah, I obviously think it's really stupid that Melissa Barrera got fired for this. I don't think that should have happened at all. But yeah, Jenna Ortega on November 22nd, it was announced she's not coming back either. But then when I was sitting there reading that, I was like, I definitely read this before, like a month ago, and I totally did. This has been rumored for a long time, and basically she never had an agreement to come back for Scream 7, and because of Wednesday and all the other things she's working on, she gave them back a huge number to say, hey, if you want me to come back, you're paying me 7 figures. It's a big number, but you're gonna pay it if you want me back. Spyglass said no, so she's not coming back. It really seems like she didn't want to because she's not really a lead in it. She's like a side character to Melissa Barrera's character, so you can see why when she's leading lady and so much other stuff, she might not want to come back for something like Scream 7. I think that's completely understandable, and now her co-star, Melissa Barrera, isn't coming back, so she has even more reason to not come back. And on a top level, I really don't have an issue with her not coming back for the reason she's not coming back, because it's like an open secret that they're incredibly cheap with these Scream movies, right? The whole reason Neve Campbell didn't come back is because she was insulted by the offer they gave her for the sequel to Scream 5, and she was going to have a much bigger role in it, and they basically told her to kick rocks and totally wrote her out of the script. So knowing that, I could see why Melissa Barrera would come back with an astronomically high number and say, I deserve this, and the Spyglass people would say, hey, we disagree, we're not going to pay you that, and it makes sense. I'm not saying it's right, but it makes sense why she wouldn't want to come back, and from their reality, I could see why Spyglass wouldn't want to pay the extra money, because they didn't do it with Neve Campbell, and Scream 6 is the highest grossing movie in the Scream franchise. So they obviously got a lot of confidence out of that decision. It's a really weird scenario, honestly, like how things shake out with this franchise. And the guy running everything over at Spyglass, his name is Gary Barber, and I guess he's the big person behind all of these decisions. He's notoriously cheap when it comes to movies, which if you look at horror movies, that's the way to make money, and he's clearly proven that. But he's sitting there saying like, well, we had the highest grossing Scream movie without Neve Campbell, so if I don't have Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega coming back for 7, I think I can figure out a way to make this happen, right? I don't think it's the same situation because you don't have any of the leads people want to come back for now. You have to basically start from scratch if that's what's going to happen. We'll talk about more what they want, but yeah, I think it's a lot riskier of a move with Scream 7 than Scream 6 because there's a lot of factors as to why I think Scream 6 did as well as it did. First of all, Scream 5 was very well received and made a lot of money. It was like basically the safest, most perfect requel you could have in terms of horror. I don't like it as much as Scream 6, but you know, people can be wrong, including everyone else and not me in this scenario. I also think the change of scenery for the franchise, like moving it to New York and really playing into that for the marketing, coming up with cool posters, having that sweet shot on the subway where it's all dark and grimy, and just seeing Ghostface in that setting was extremely cool. And of course, the nostalgia bait that they really played into with the trailer where they're like, hey, this is a Ghostface museum that the new Ghostface has assembled. They brought back Kirby for the Scream 4 fans out there, all 10 of us. So yeah, they had a lot of things that were bringing people back to the theater for Scream 6. And like I just said, without Neve Campbell, without Jenna Ortega, without Melissa Barrera, without even Radio Silence, like they're not directing this movie, they're just executive producing it. It's a lot more of an uphill battle than what they faced before. So I don't think the bullishness is really going to pay off in the way that it did with Scream 6. That's the point I'm making here. The only thing that really kind of helps them out is that the ending of Scream 6 can be viewed as a definitive ending for the Carpenter sisters. It's clearly not supposed to be, but you could look at it that way. Like, you know, she throws down the Ghostface mask. She says, I'm moving on with my life. She's going to let her sister go and experience her own life. It's a nice little resolution for the characters, but it's kind of like too neat of a bow in the sense that like you want to see more. Like that's what really solidified Melissa Barrera's character as the new lead of Scream. Like I said in my review that I would be fine if Neve Campbell didn't come back, and honestly if they could get these characters back I would feel the same way. I like this new duo and the core four quite a bit, especially knowing that they all survived Scream 6. Like there's a lot more you could do there. There's a lot more unanswered questions. There's a lot of stuff left on the table. Now a lot of people are asking whether or not this is the death of Scream, and honestly as someone who grew up and of course talks about slasher movies from the 80s on this channel, specifically the Halloween franchise, that franchise, if like you think this is bad, what's going on with Scream, just look at anything that happened throughout any movie in the Halloween franchise, even the new ones. There's arguments behind the scenes all the time with these Halloween movies, and they still managed to make what, like 13 of them so far? Scream's only on Scream 7. This is just a minor speed bump. I think they're going to have a hard time getting as much money and as much people to come back because, you know, there's a big rabid fan base for Scream that's younger, and they don't like the reason that they fired Melissa Barrera, right? Like they're very vehemently against that politically, and I'm not commenting on that, I'm just pointing that out as a fact. So I think they're gonna have a lot more trouble getting people to come back. But that being said, the supposed plan for Scream 7 now is to just get on their knees and beg Neve Campbell to come back. They're probably gonna take the combined salaries of the Carpenter sisters and put that towards Neve Campbell. They'll probably have to go a little bit higher than that and, you know, give her an actual apology and say, hey, come back. They also want to get Patrick Dempsey involved. He plays Sydney's husband, and that makes sense because Spyglass just produced a movie with Patrick Dempsey called Thanksgiving. I talked about it earlier, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but he absolutely steals the show in that movie. He was awesome, and I just want to see him in more horror movies. He has the look for horror now. And I feel like for normal people out there who maybe grew up in the 90s, like my age, maybe a little older, who saw Scream, they go and they maybe casually saw Scream 5 and 6. They're not paying attention to what's going on in Variety or the Hollywood Reporter. They're worried about the real world and their lives around them. They're not even going to know that this drama happened. They're just going to see the trailer when eventually it comes out. They're going to see Neve Campbell. They're going to see Patrick Dempsey. They're probably going to see Courtney Cox, and they're going to be like, oh, I like all these actors. I'm going to go see the new Scream movie. And they probably, for the most part, haven't even thought about Scream 6 in years since like at the time that this would come out. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that's what's going to happen. There's like a lot of us that are tuned into the horror world here, specifically with movies like Scream and Halloween, but we are definitely not the majority. So I don't think the Scream franchise is ending over this, and Christopher Landon is still staying to direct, and James Vanderbilt is still staying on to write. I'm pretty sure Radio Silence is still executive producing, so the creative team is clearly hard at work figuring out how to pick up the pieces here. Oh, and speaking of Christopher Landon, he put out a tweet where he said, everything sucks, stop yelling, this was not my decision to make. And that's like just the wrong move of all wrong moves, right? You don't throw a cop out like that just to like, oh, I'm being being a baby about this. Like, you're the head of the ship, dude. Like, people are looking to you for guidance on this, and they want to see some backbone. So if you're gonna say anything, at least stand up for Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega and like say, hey, I think this was stupid, instead of doing this cop-out wishy-washy shit. And yeah, clearly he deleted the tweet. I just think he should have stayed quiet, you know, especially knowing what he said. Hindsight's 2020. As for the script, it obviously has to be rewritten, but they're doing what they did with Scream 6 allegedly, which is keeping the location, the set pieces all the same, and then just writing all the character stuff around that separately. And when it comes to that, there's only two options, right? Like, you get Neve Campbell, you get Courtney Cox, you get Patrick Dempsey, you have those three come back and do a big movie that's a sequel to Scream 5 kind of, and just kind of ignores what happened in 6 because that was a diversion. They could also figure out a way to not only revive Dewey, but also bring Matthew Lillard back, Stu Macher. Like, that would be a no-brainer, especially considering Five Nights at Freddy's is the biggest Blumhouse movie ever. It made like $300 million in no small part thanks to him. Like, he did a really good job as William Afton. And then the other option is to like get on their knees and beg Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega to come back and then just make the third movie in the trilogy that was obviously planned after Scream 6. I just don't think that's ever really going to happen. I know people think without them the franchise is dead, and I'll just point out again that horror franchises have come back from far worse than this. The reason I'm so neutral on it is because I'm not a huge fan of this franchise at the end of the day. Like, I enjoy it. I've seen 4, 5, and 6 in theaters, and the original back when they put it in theaters. The original is a masterpiece. I love it. I watch it all the time. But the rest of the series, like, I enjoy the movies they parody more than the movie that they're making at the end of the day. So yeah, I don't really feel one way or the other, positive, negative on this. I'm just like curious to see what's going to happen, because clearly this movie is happening. It's going to come out. There is a very slim chance they can revive it and maybe even do better than Scream 6. They're just going to have to cultivate a different fan base than the one they already have, because I think those people are gone. Oh, and I just want to point out, I really couldn't find a really good concrete source for Neve Campbell and Patrick Dempsey being the people that they want to come back most. Everything links back to this Variety article, which kind of makes it seem like an opinion more than a source info fact that they heard. You know what I'm saying? I think it's very clear though that that's what they want to do, and that's probably what they're going to do. But yeah, I know people are boycotting Spyglass over this. That's not me. I'm not going to punish other filmmakers because I'm upset someone got fired from a movie. Like, I will definitely be more critical of Scream 7 now knowing what it was, but this similar situation happened with Scream 6. I know it's a little different because it's not politically motivated, but Neve Campbell did not return for Scream 6 and everyone was up in arms about that, but it made the most money in the franchise. And between Scream 5 and Scream 6, I like 6 significantly more. There was a lot cooler stuff in that movie, and despite the fact that the ending was a little bit messy, ultimately I think it was a better movie. So yeah, I think I could be impressed by whatever happens with Scream 7, but yeah, it sucks when, you know, if you're a huge fan of something, like if this happened to Halloween, I'd probably be a lot more up in arms. It's just like I can be a casual observer here and say, at the end of the day, I'll probably get to see Ghostface kill some people, which is nice, but it would have been cool to see the Carpenter sisters trilogy wrap up. Ultimately though, it's a pretty bleak situation for the Scream franchise, and I would love to hear what you think. Please let me know down in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and set your notifications to all if you haven't already. As always, my name is Jimmy Champane. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.